Good evening and welcome to the Mora Experience. I feel like I've been gone forever. We celebrated my 50th birthday last week and it was epic. I've had a chance to have a lot of time to reflect over my life, over how grateful I am about where I'm at. You know what the most grateful about? I'm grateful. Thank you, Walter, Tedra. Listen, y'all, tag and share. Because tonight it's going to go all the way live, right? But I'm most grateful, Tammy Clark, for being open to new seasons, to elevation, to then knowing that when you are moving into more elevation, right, comes more isolation, comes more alone time where you can really hear from God during that season. Because elevation brings isolation, elevation, brings those things. And so I am very, very excited, even though it doesn't feel good, because growing pains, right? Growing pains, do you realize that even with growing pains, that pain is not always an indication of growth? Pain is not always an indication of growth. But I'm super excited. We did not have last Tuesday's podcast because we had Wednesday evening 50 Shades of Nina with 50 women who registered for that private time, and we kind of let a little bit out of a little bit of the cat out of the bag at the end of our experience last Wednesday, that the Millionaire Crusade is coming soon. And we even left you ladies with a little homework to start preparing yourself for the Millionaire Crusade. And we're actually looking at some dates right now for possibly September here in Atlanta, Georgia. And you never know, you might even see my guest for this evening just might be in the house, right? We're looking at maybe September, early October, so that we can have our Millionaire Crusade conference, and it'll probably be one day, maybe one day, one evening. I don't know, but I want to stop talking so that we can go ahead and get our guests on the line this evening. Tonight, we're talking about 7-figure divas. And not that we're not talking to the gentlemen, right? But we're talking about entrepreneurship tonight. We're talking about people that are, we're going to talk about full-time entrepreneurship, and we're going to talk about the ebbs and the flows, right? The highs and the lows of entrepreneurship. And so I would like to bring up our guest for this evening's podcast out of the DMV area. So beautiful. That's all right. Bring her up. Naya and Small. If you could bring her back up if you could bring her back up. I don't know what just happened. You got to bring her back up. All right, there we go. All right, there we go. Right now, let me make sure that I can hear you. Can you talk a little bit?
Yes. Can you hear me okay?
Perfect. Naya.
Thank you so much for having me.
I'm so glad to have you. So many people probably are like, well, who is that? We never seen them together, right? So I'm gonna give you a chance to explain who you are, but I want you to know that I've been watching you for some time, for many years.
Wow.
I know, like, I've been watching you, you were watching me.
Yeah.
And it's amazing how God will put people in your life,
Yeah.
specific season at a specific time. And we're gonna talk about a lot of the things you're going through the vortex.
Yes. Absolutely.
So you know what, Naya, would you please tell everyone that's watching, and I know they're tagging and they're sharing, exactly who you are, where you're from, and what you do.
Okay, sure. Well, my name is again Naya Small. And once again, Nina, thank you so much for the opportunity to join you on this platform. I am living in Clinton, Maryland. I'm from the DMV, born and raised. I am a mom. I am a wife to be. I am now a full-time entrepreneur. I'm a senior pastor of a ministry in Clinton, Maryland, a growing ministry. I've been pastoring for 10 years this coming September. I'm an author. But the most important thing is I love life and I love God. And every way that I can serve his people in whatever capacity, that's what I aim to do. I am all about being healthy from the inside out, the total man, not just, I mean, I'm a woman of prayer, but not just prayer, right? It's our total man that I am concerned about, our spirit, our soul, our body, our health, our fitness, feeling good, and living our best selves. So that's a little bit about who I am.
Oh no, that wasn't a little bit. You said a whole. I know everybody was like, "Whoa, wait a minute, wait." I know when you said that I'm a senior pastor and I have been for 10 years. They probably were like, "Wait." They probably didn't see that one coming.
Uh-huh.
You know, Naya, what I love about entrepreneurship is that once you figure out a formula, it is then rinse and repeat. Once you figure out a formula, you know, and it's like you feel like I love the song by Commission, How Can We Sing We're in a Strange Land, right? At first it feels
Mhm.
like, oh my gosh, right? And it's not, it's scary. Imagine being on a dark road at night, no lights, all you've got is your headlights, and
Yeah,
you really can't see anything in front of you. You don't know really when the turns are coming until you get up on them, right?
yeah.
But entrepreneurship is a lot like that. I mean, I'm the daughter of a pastor, so I
Mhm.
I've never been a pastor, so to speak, but I've been around long enough to
Yes.
see what you go through even as a pastor, right?
Mm,
But then you're a mom, you
mhm.
know, and you were working in corporate America, and now
Yes.
you're not, and now you're
Yeah.
not. So
Yes.
we're gonna dig in. We're gonna dig into that.
Yeah.
Naya, you know, when I think, can you let everybody know first what were you doing in corporate America, and let them know like how long it's been since you've not been in corporate America? Go ahead. Go
Okay.
ahead.
Sure. So, let's see. I have been in corporate America for over 20 years. Let me just preface this by saying, um, I know you probably go through this. People probably think that you are much younger than your age, and you don't look your age at all. But I'm 40 years old. So I've been in corporate America for about 20 years, and I served in administration and being an executive assistant to first the vice president of business development, and then the chief business officer, and then the chief operating officer. So I have supported executives um, over the span of those years. And my last corporate job was for about 10 years to the chief business officer. And so my transition has been very recent. I have been now a full time entrepreneur for 1 month. I have been an entrepreneur on the side, for about 5 to 7 years, but now recently just making this move, my passion was speaking louder than going to that corporate job every day. And so I knew I needed to make the change.
Mm. But how did you know? Because oftentimes people
Mhm.
say, "But how did you know? Like how
Mhm.
like did the lightning bolt strike down? Did the ring? You know, because people think that's what happens. The bed elevate off the
Yeah.
floor. How did you know that? Okay, the time is right now.
Let's see. Well, it was a progressive decision because years ago, let me preference by saying I never imagine myself as an entrepreneur. I grew up in a home where I do have entrepreneurs in my family, but not my immediate family. So my goal was to stay working and to retire. And Nina, I don't know if you know this about me, but I was previously married and became a widow 2 years ago. Okay. So my goal initially was to work so that my late husband could come off of his job, but I would continue to work. But as I continued to progress and the way that ministry and business was moving, I was beginning to be around more entrepreneurs and the boss mindset, and it just unlocked something in me. And so over the years, I just felt compelled to really push more of my passion, but I knew that I wasn't in the position to make that change. It wasn't until we went through the pandemic that I really began to learn how to discipline myself to work at home, because when no one's watching you, you have to literally get yourself up and sit yourself in front of your computer. And so the pandemic really taught me that discipline of being home every day and with no one, standing over my neck. Not that any of my bosses were like that, but you have to really be that yourself. You have to be your boss. You have to manage your time. And so I learned how to do that and how to structure my day. And it's really through the pandemic that I saw, you know what, I really can do this. And it's like my mind began to unlock with creativity and ideas and thoughts about how to generate income. And so when we had to go back to work, that was like a future shock for me, because now I have all of these ideas and I'm ready to move out, but I didn't have the bandwidth to do what I needed to do. And so I think my moment was when I went back to work earlier this year. I said, you know what? This season has shifted for me. I felt trapped, and I've never felt like that before. I felt trapped. I felt like everything that I desired to do was held up because of my 9 to 5. And so it's a big faith move. It's not easy, and I had to make sure that there were some things, in place before I actually made that move. I have a 16-year-old daughter. She's not out of high school yet, and I'm about to be a wife again. And, so there were a lot of things to consider. But at the end of the day, I have such a great support system. And, even my fiance, he's a full-time entrepreneur. And just to have the backing and the support, it let me know, you know what, Naya, it's time now. It's time now, because my passion for helping people was outweighing my ability to do my day-to-day job. Even though I continued to do it, there was a different level of passion and lack thereof on my job that I once had that I no longer had.
That's crazy. That's one of my questions
Mm-hmm.
that I have written down. You said a word, trapped.
Oh, yes.
And I know that feeling. I know I felt like I talked to you a lot yesterday about the fact that I felt like I was trapped
Mm-hmm.
behind the chair.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what helped me to we look at these things that happen in our lives as this like oh my God, the devil sure is busy.
Yeah.
A believer is so quick to say the devil sure is busy.
Uh-huh.
I was in the salon pregnant with Paige.
Mm-hmm.
And the women there were working there were so catty, and they were older than me, but they were catty.
Mm-hmm.
And every day I would sit in my car having to pray before I went inside. And I said, you know what? I'm out of here. I'm out of here. When I had this baby, I'm not coming back to the salon because God made it so uncomfortable for me.
Yeah.
So I had to stop blaming the devil because he used those women to cause me to be uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say I'm not coming back.
Yep.
The salon had me trapped. It felt like I had, and although I loved my clients, which is what kept me in the salon even longer, I had been doing their hair for over 10 years, 15, 20, some of them 20 years. So there was a relationship that I was letting go of when I decided that I was going to. So then what I did was put a chair. See, I didn't obey God. I walked out the shop. I we put a chair in my house in the as if he didn't walk away.
Yeah.
I decided to keep a couple of clients.
Right.
Because I was afraid to just walk away.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then in January, I started working online sales. And then in January of 2015, Paige was born May of 2014. By January of 2015, I was like, you know what? I'm done. And I apologized to my clients. And they said to me, we were waiting for you to give it up.
Yeah.
And you are passionate about what you're doing. And I was no longer giving them attention. Trapped. That's a heavy word. Trapped.
Yeah.
I'm a woman who likes to know what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Let's look at what the word trapped actually means.
Absolutely.
Because some people are on here being helped right now. The definition of trapped is to prevent someone from escaping from a place. have something, typically a part of the body, held
Mm.
tightly by something so that it cannot move. Listen to this, y'all, or be freed.
Wow.
Induce someone by means of trickery, deception, to do something they would not otherwise want to do. Trapped. And
Mm.
so my husband felt trapped. He
Mhm.
felt trapped, but he was afraid at first because the man is supposed to be the provider, and
Yeah.
but what if providing is not just in the finance? What if providing is providing guidance, providing fathership and nurturing in our home, to
Mhm.
make it more comfortable for God to utilize me in the giftings and the anointing, the abilities that I have. And so, Naya, entrepreneurs, I find, are like farmers.
Mhm.
The reason why I say they're like farmers is because an entrepreneur has to grow, nurture,
Wow.
cultivate, get
Yeah.
an idea or a
Yeah.
product into the marketplace, right? And then we've got to make sure that we're getting the product idea in the marketplace in the harvest season, to
Yes.
go back to plant,
Yeah.
nurture, grow back to the marketplace. And
Yes.
I see us as farmers. And I don't know,
Mhm.
you were just on the live. We were talking about Matthew 4:19, talking about
Mm.
not just being fishermen, but
Yeah.
being fishers of men. So you decided about a month ago, right? Maybe
Uh-huh.
two. All right,
Yeah.
I'm done. Walking away. What was your greatest fear?
Oh, let's see. What was my greatest fear? Um, well, it was a very public decision. So I think my greatest fear was um, figuring out that this was not the best move and everybody now seeing it. Um, I think that was the biggest thing that was on my mind. Like, what if this doesn't work? But then, the other thought is, but what if it does? So why don't we channel our, belief towards it working and not working? Um, I think
Mm,
another fear of mine was having regrets of not making the decision too.
mm,
That was a big fear too. Staying and regretting that I stayed longer than I knew I needed to. So
mm.
two of those things were both on my mind.
So we were taught that failure is a bad thing growing up.
Yeah.
It was just a thing that we were taught. But once you become an entrepreneur, you realize that failure is not final,
Mhm.
and that failure actually is the classroom to success.
Yes.
And so I think my biggest trepidation, see, people think that because we're strong and we
Mhm.
are always, you're never going to see us down, right? You're never going
Right.
to see us having a bad day, maybe a
Right.
moment, but never a day. And
Yeah.
people believe, they automatically assume, because we look like the world is perfect and
Mhm.
all those things, that we're never afraid. And it's not that we aren't afraid. We just do it anyway. See,
Yeah,
courage is not the absence of fear.
exactly.
Courage is saying, I'm scared to death.
Uh-huh.
Do it anyway,
I'ma
because
do
I
it
trust God.
anyway.
Because I
Yeah.
trust God. And so my greatest trepidation would probably be that I die before I'm emptied out.
Mm.
I don't want, and honestly, even this season that I'm in right now, it is so scary that there are days, Naya, that I'm just nauseous. And I know I'm not pregnant. Like,
Right.
not it ain't ever happening again, right? But I'm nauseous. And
Yeah.
sometimes I feel like, I don't know if you've been having these feelings, like you want to just pick up the phone, you want to call somebody, but then the Holy Spirit is like, arrest you, like, put that phone down. You gonna
Yes.
talk to me.
Yes. Yes.
It, it is and I think, when I think back at all of my failures,
Mhm.
I'm grateful for them. I'm
Yeah.
grateful for who my failures have made me.
Mhm.
And I'm grateful that I'm learning from the failures. So when
Yeah.
you think about failures, right? We talk about failure.
Mm-hmm.
What was one of your, and I don't want to say greatest failures, but let's say what was one of those things? Because I know for me, I had a marriage also that ended in divorce. Yours
Mm-hmm.
ended in a different way, but my marriage ended in divorce, and I felt like such a fraud, like such a, because nobody gets married to say
Mm-hmm.
now it's
Mm-hmm.
over,
Yeah.
but when you look at your failures, what would you say one of your greatest failures were that taught you something, and what did you learn from it?
Okay. So, so fun fact about me that I am no longer embarrassed about is I've actually been married twice before. So my first marriage was to my daughter's father, and that ended in divorce. And it was a very rough divorce,
Mm,
very rough custody battle. And so from that experience, I learned, because we weren't married long. We got married and then we got divorced maybe a year later, because I should have trusted my instincts from the jump. And that's what I learned from that experience, to trust what I am feeling. It's not by accident that I'm feeling it. You know, some call it your conscious, I call it the Holy Spirit,
mhm.
but whatever you call it, to trust your instincts, to trust your gut. If it keeps coming back, you need to pay attention to that. And because I was young, I ignored it, and it just cycled all the way back to, this wasn't something that I was supposed to do from the jump. So that was one of the biggest lessons that I learned. And it was a hard lesson because it took 2 years to get out of something that should not have gone that far. So trust my instincts, trust the Holy Spirit, trust the gut, trust what I feel going on the inside that won't leave me alone. That's what I learned from that.
You really are my sister, because I no, for real. The writing was on the, like, all of the warning signs were there. The
Yeah.
matter of fact, they were flashing
Yes.
like, "Don't do it, Nina."
Neon color.
And I was like, but the money is out there already. And what are
Uh-huh.
the people going to say if we
Uh-huh.
don't go through with
What
this
is it?
wedding? And oh my God, I'm going to be so embarrassed. My parents are going to be so. And they told me after the fact, like, Nina, if you had just said,
Uh-huh.
what, up until the day probably before, I was like, oh, what am I doing?
Mhm.
What am I doing? And knowing, and then I just kept saying, well, it'll probably get better. We fool ourselves, or
Mhm.
try to fool ourselves into believing, well, it'll just get better.
Yep.
It'll get better. But when the signs are there, y'all, the signs, and guess what? Good and bad. Because
Yeah.
sometimes, Naya, the signs are there that are saying, jump, like, do it
Yes.
now, go
Yes.
all in. And
Yes.
you just said, I did not also want to live with the regret
Mhm.
of not walking away when I knew that
It
it was
was time.
time,
Yes. Yes.
right?
Yes. Yes.
So you're in full-time entrepreneurship, but you've been in entrepreneurship for quite some time. What's
Mhm.
one thing about entrepreneurship that you wish that you had known when you started to kind of pursue the entrepreneurial bug?
Hmm. I'm learning a lot. Um, I would have to say paying more attention to where my reach is reaching to. um,
That's
because
so
I was putting a lot of, content out just broadly and letting the chips fall where they may, so to speak. And now I am paying more attention to who is reaching out, who is pulling on me,
mm,
paying more attention to my analytics, what age am I reaching? Who is benefiting from what it is that I'm, putting out there? And so for a long time, I didn't pay attention to that. I was just, you know, just putting what I do out there, and whoever wants to grab onto it. But now I'm focusing more and honing in. Um, and being more and communicating more with those that are reaching out, because I'm learning that I did not place value on what has been inside of me. And
Mm,
so I would belittle when someone is, pulling on me or reaching out. I'm just like, oh, you know, I was, downplaying my influence. And
mm.
so that's something that, like this year has really, really been heavy on me to stop downplaying that, because people are reaching out because of what, they're pulling on you for a reason. And so those two areas, paying attention to my reach, and really communicating and connecting more and building relationship with people more.
That is so important. I don't think people realize how important relationships are. It's not what you know
Yeah,
ever. It
yeah,
is who we know.
yeah,
Because who we know, like I know beyond the shadow of a doubt, Nia, that I'm not qualified by the world's terms,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Do what I do, to
Mhm,
be who I am, to earn the kind of income I'm earning and have earned. I'm not qualified
mhm,
to do that. I have no degree. I had
mhm,
a baby at 15. Marriage
mhm,
ended in divorce. I had another baby out of wedlock. You know what I mean? I
mhm.
mean, and there's some other stories about that that I'm probably gonna in the next year gonna share more truth about my story. Um, and not that I'm hiding it, it's just not
Mhm. Right,
it's not time yet. Um,
right.
and so you know you then also start to think, well, God, I'm not qualified, so you start hiding who you really are and what you have to offer as well. You start downplaying, like you said, downplaying
Yeah,
your influence,
yeah.
downplaying. I didn't talk like my dad, Bishop.
Mhm.
I didn't talk like him, and my
Yeah.
brother might as well have been a walking encyclopedia. I felt like I didn't
Mhm,
talk like him either. And you
mhm.
know what I realized, Naya? That there's a group of people that need to hear it
Yep,
exactly the way me
yep,
more can say it. There's a
absolutely.
group of people that need to hear how Naya can say it. There's a
Yes.
group of people, that need that can't listen to, my brother who's basically, and I'm not downplaying him, I'm just saying down, talking about him bad. He just saying like summa cum laude.
Uh-huh,
Like
uh-huh,
I can't talk because I can't talk like him.
uh-huh.
I'm not gonna dot every I, and I'm not gonna cross every T, because I'm
Right,
just Nina, the way
right,
I am authentically me. But I
right.
learned to be comfortable, because comparison really is the thief of joy. And when I'm
Yes.
comparing myself to other people, and well, why is that person? I mean, I work hard too. Why is that person being elevated and earning that kind of income, and I'm working just as hard over here? And you know what God showed me? Because you ain't ready.
Yeah,
You're not
yeah,
ready. And if we
yeah.
think about what his word says, right? When God says that he's never going to put more on us than we can bear,
That's right.
he says that he would never do that. He's not going to embarrass himself. So
Mhm.
when I am ready for the increase as it's happening, and I honestly believe, Naya, that was there a season where you were like, had to get very, very quiet when
Oh,
you
yes.
make that decision? Can you talk about that season?
Yes. I mean, because the decision, to everyone else, it didn't make sense. And so I really had to sit back and just quiet the noise around me. And not that, the people who are surrounding us, they love us and they want the best for us. But sometimes, that safety and comfort, it can become a robber of destiny. And so I had to really just like go to prayer and say, okay, I know what I feel. I know what I'm feeling. I need you to help me with this. And so there's that season where it's like you just planting seeds in the dark. It's like you're in the dark, but the best work takes place in that dark place. And I was there for a long time. But it's like when you know it's time, and moving in the timing of God is so important. Moving, you know, to everything, there is a season. So when you realize that you are in that season where it's time to make those type of moves, you just have to silence the noise. And that's what I had to do. I had to really quiet myself, and I had to cut back some conversation. And everyone doesn't always understand when you're, quieting yourself. But
No.
those who get you, those who love you, they know, they get it. And those who don't, to God be the glory. But that was definitely a necessary season that I had to navigate.
Wow. So the greatest thing for you now is that you're marrying a pastor, you're
Mhm.
marrying someone who is a full-time entrepreneur.
Yes,
That's
yes,
interesting in itself.
yes.
Two boss people coming together. That's going to be very interesting. He's a Taurus. They have to meet. God bless you, lady. God bless you. So it take a very, very gifted individual, because there's a personality, that I'm certain.
Mhm.
That's my guy, though. Look,
Yeah.
I was so mad I wasn't there, or I was mad I wasn't there. I said I should have flown up to Philly and just bombarded that party. I was there, I wasn't invited. I was like, Sean, I could have been your plus one.
We would have
But
loved it.
you're now joining, and so what's great about what you two, the dynamic that you bring, is
Yeah.
that he's been a full-time entrepreneur
For
for quite
15
some
years.
time. Yeah, and now he just has things that he can offer you. I know it will be now. It was difficult for my husband
Mhm.
to hear from me in business, but I will say this to you both: it
Mhm.
was not his fault; it was mine,
Mm.
because I also had to learn not to talk to my husband like he was my
Mm.
team.
Wow. Wow,
It
that's
was me.
good. That
I
was
was
good.
talking at him like I needed him to do something, like he was a teammate or something, or I don't know. And I wasn't really talking to him like he was my partner.
Got
And
you.
so, for those of you who may have a spouse or someone that you're trying to work in business with, and you're wondering why they may not want to hear it from you,
Mm.
I would tell you to be very, very careful that, and it took my husband to say to me when we were kind of like in a heated debate. And
Yeah.
this was many years ago, because I'm gonna tell y'all, Paul and I really don't argue. We're celebrating year number 10.
Mhm.
Um,
That's awesome.
September 1st.
Awesome.
And we really don't argue. We don't always agree.
Mhm.
There's a difference, but
Yeah.
we really don't argue, because after 10 years, you're like, what? Go on, which is bye. Bye.
Uh-huh.
You don't even, but I was talking at him, and not nurturing him as far as the business was concerned, in the
Mhm.
way that I was nurturing like my team.
Got you.
And because you kind of expect, because you're here, I mean, you hear it. I mean, you didn't hear what I said, and kind of like talking like that, you
Yeah.
know. And so I'm telling you guys that if you are in business together with your mate, don't always assume that they
Mhm.
or that they know, or
Yeah.
maybe they heard it but didn't get understanding.
Yeah.
We have to be willing to be that, even though at the end of the day, I know you done all the other stuff. Now it's like I gotta tell you too, but yeah, want your mate to work together with you in business. Make
Mhm.
sure that you're not talking down to them. I'm
That's
I'm
good.
I'm just gonna help you. That was for free. All right,
That's
that was
good.
marriage counseling 101, business counseling.
That is good.
That was for free, because that was me. I did it. I did it to him. And I'm grateful that it didn't take long for me to understand, because a man will pull all the way back, like, oh, okay, because you
Mhm.
ain't gonna talk to me like that. And
Yeah, they
even
will.
say that, he will
Mhm.
just pull all the way back. And then
Mhm.
you're wondering, well, why I can't get you to be interested? Because it defames him. It
Yeah.
demeans him, rather
Yes.
than lifting him up in a let's just say it like this, in a black man and
Yep.
men, period,
Yep.
go through enough outside of the home, just trying to be a provider and trying to find their way, especially if they didn't have a father. Now they
Yeah.
trying to be a man, trying to be a father, trying to be a husband. You trying to you now you going
Mhm.
shut me down in business too. Oh,
Uh-huh.
they will disconnect.
Yes,
That
they will. Yes,
that
they
was
will.
for free. That was for free.
And
So,
he's on, by the way, he's Facebook user on here, so he's
oh,
on.
hey, Cam. Wait till we do it. We'll do a couples one too. We'll do a
Oh,
couple.
yes. Awesome.
So what advice would you give to someone who is at this point now where they're at that crossroad and
Mhm,
they feel trapped?
mhm,
They feel they feel the pressure. They're afraid. They're
mhm,
just afraid, but they know that they're suffocating. They're
mhm,
making good. Maybe they're making good money. Excuse me, but they're stuck, and they're
mm,
like, okay, something's got to give here. Give our listeners and the people that will probably either on YouTube or they'll hear this later some
mhm,
advice as to what to do now if they
mhm.
want to become full-time entrepreneur.
Well, I would first say that, and not in any particular order, but it's necessary for you to develop a strategy. You don't want to make this type of move without counting the cost, writing out your realistic expenses, eliminating some of the frivolous. And pulling back in areas that you need to so that you can be realistic with your budget, and what you have to take care of. I think it's very necessary to have that in place before you make the decision. It's good to have a dream, it's good to be a visionary, but we also have to be wise with our movement. And so developing a strategy, um, having having a support system in place. It doesn't have to be, you know, a whole lot of people, just two or three who understand what it is that you're desiring to do. Sometimes, unfortunately, you may not be able to have that help, but if you have, another person who can act as your accountability partner, to help, to keep you encouraged, I would say that's very key. And then finally, understanding that being an entrepreneur is not a vacation, and it is not, while we do have freedom to make our own schedule, that it is still a lot of work. And I'm seeing that, already, Nina, like it's a lot of work. And it actually could be putting in more hours than 9 to 5.
Wow.
So you have to keep those things into consideration, understanding that you may have to be open 24/7, or on the weekends. Like it's not a paycheck every 2 weeks, depending on what you're doing. What you work for is what you will bring in. um, Putting in the work to bring in. So keeping those things in mind. But I believe that there will be a level of fear per se with the decision. But once you implement those things and you see where it can be done, it's all a faith move. But developing that strategy, having you some support, and then remembering that it's not a vacation, it's not a bed of roses, that it's really going to be hard work. Um, that makes for a good uh, plan of, what's the word I'm looking for? An exit strategy.
Exit
That's
strategy.
what Cam always says, that developing an exit strategy and being wise with it, even if it means staying on your job for another year to prepare, is very wise to develop that exit strategy.
Right, right. That is so good. The listeners and the watchers are loving what you're saying. I've watched people um that are tormented like by their jobs, and
Mm,
sometimes being there in the environment that they're in because they know they really don't belong there
yeah.
turns you into another person. And then
Yeah.
when you're not there, you've got to learn how to not be that person
Oh,
because you're
yeah.
there so long that you have to become a certain person to be able to deal with that,
Yeah.
right? And so preparation is so key, because what you don't want to do is get on out there and fail in a way that there's no going back to that, you know,
Right.
especially if you were, if you've had some longevity in your job or something like that, you definitely got to make sure that you don't just walk out blindly. You don't
Right.
think, oh, God will provide. No, God
Mm.
says in all thy getting,
Yes. Get
get
up.
some understanding, right?
Yes.
Wise when you do it, wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. You don't just walk out there,
Yeah.
because entrepreneurship is not easy. And
Right.
you know what happens, Naya? People like Cam, people
Mhm.
like Sean, people like you, people like me, we make it look
Mhm.
so easy,
Yeah.
but you don't know the nights that we're like, right? And when we're looking for a word from God and he's not saying anything,
Yeah.
when we're looking for content and we're like,
Yes.
we're reading books, we're listening to other podcasts, we're
Yes.
listening to other ministers and things, and we're listening to personal development, and then
Yes.
there's nothing. You
Yeah.
don't feel like nothing is there, and you're like, okay. And then
Yeah.
you got to train, you got to show up, you got to be a mom, you got to be, and you're like, okay. And now you're feeling pulled, and there's that thing that's inside of us that's like welling up on the inside, and we
Uh,
just read through it all like we in labor, y'all. You don't get to see the nights that we cry, like we just chill.
yeah.
And oh yeah, because we have good videos and we take great pictures, and and
Uh-huh.
all that the stuff that's actually going on behind the scenes, so that when it's lights, camera, action, y'all don't know that I just stuffed this
Listen.
on my head, and you know what I
Listen.
mean? Like you don't know what's going on behind the scenes, and there's pressure to show up, there's
Yes.
pressure to perform, there's
Yes.
pressure to outwork yourself, meaning,
Yes.
okay, last week those numbers were good, but now I've got to do better than
Uh-huh.
that, right?
Yes.
It's pressure.
Yes.
Entrepreneurship is not easy. So I want to ask you a question.
Okay.
If you could step into my shoes right now,
Mm-hmm.
what would you have asked yourself that I didn't ask you?
Hmm. Mm-hmm. Good question. um. I gotta think on that one. Um.
Or what thing do you feel like you might have wanted to share that maybe we just didn't go down that road?
Let's see. If I ever, if I left with the thought of, I can always go back to that.
Oh, you burned the boats. You burned the boat.
And that thought, it lingers in the back of your head, like if this doesn't work, I can always do this, or if this doesn't work, I'll just do this. But right now, my mindset is I am moving with the notion that there is nothing to go back to, so this has to work. And that's where my mindset is, because I know that this is God, and I know that this is how I was led. There's no reason to even think about going back to, my corporate job, or going back to the comfort of every 2 weeks of that paycheck. Like, at first, Nina, that thought of not getting that paycheck terrified me, like, a couple years ago. And now I'm like, but it's okay. It's
Wow.
okay, because that was a source, but it was not the only source. It was not the only source. And I'm really seeing how God is really building my creativity to create the source instead of having to depend on a source, if that makes sense. So that thought was lingering in the back of my mind, like, okay, like, if this don't, I could always do. But no, I'm gonna move as if there's no other option. This is it.
You
This
burn
is
the
it.
boats. You
Yeah.
literally, we teach that all the time. Like, you got
Mm.
to go to the other side and then burn the boat, so there's no way to get back.
Wow.
You don't even know how you just ministered to me,
Wow.
because today was a really tough day for me. And of course, it didn't look like it to most people, but internally, it was
Yeah.
a tough day for me. I never feel like, oh God, well, shouldn't I be at such and such and such place? And all, that's not what I'm feeling. what I'm feeling is when you're like, okay, God, show me the way. Like
Yes.
I know that there's something next.
Yeah.
And and you know he's saying, okay, you're almost there, and
Mhm.
that's where I am. Like I know that there's that next. And then I got a phone call
Mhm.
from my brand ambassador, one of the young ladies that's working with me as a brand ambassador, and she's like, it's time for you to step out. And I was like, yeah, 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 yeah. I know. And so it was like I was already feeling that. And I had a lot of quiet alone time today. Paul had to go to a meeting earlier, and he was gone for all day, really.
Mhm.
And um and it's that nauseous, that thing you're saying, that thing in your gut that's
Yeah.
like you just know that's there. Knowing, it's knowing. And when I think about what the Bible talks about when it says, when Adam said that I may know her, right? When he know
Yeah.
when to know Eve,
Yeah.
people understand what that really means. He knew her. He knew
Mhm.
her, how she acted, why
Yeah.
she acted that way. He knew her intimately to
Yeah.
know. And I think when you are seeking God for no, so you know that you're in that season where God is elevating you, right? Because there's isolation that's there. And but you feel like, okay, well, aren't I done? And you keep taking the cake out the oven, and you
Uh-huh.
keep you pick in, and it keeps coming out, and you're like, well, gosh, well, how
Yeah.
much longer is this gonna take?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, so you just really helped me, because it's not that I doubt where I'm at. It's
Mhm.
literally like you just said it, like, no, it's got to work. And
Yeah.
so it's not about working harder sometimes when you already work hard.
Yeah.
It's about working in purpose.
Yes. Yes.
It's about
Yeah.
working in
Yeah.
purpose. And when you're not working and walking in purpose, you feel discombobulated, boobulated. Y'all remember
Yes.
that song, right? Oh, wow. So good. So we have a question from a viewer. He
Okay.
said, how do you know? Let me go back up. When do you know you're ready to be an entrepreneur full time? When do you know? When do
Hmm.
you know? I think it's different for everyone. I'm gonna let Naya go first.
I agree. I think it's different for everyone too. But I have to go back to that strategy. I mean, because we can have the feeling all day, but when we implement strategy and we are realistic with what it takes to push purpose and to fund purpose, I think all of that has to be taken into account. But when I know for me, my level of drive just I really lost my passion for the job that I was doing. At one point, I absolutely loved, and I still like administration, don't get me wrong, but it just was different. Like it was literally like routine, mundane. It's like I could do the job with my eyes closed. And it was like, okay, I know there's yeah, I'm grateful for the job, it's provided. I'm grateful. I don't want to seem ungrateful, but I just know that there's more than this. Like I'm giving 8 to 9 hours. And then I don't even want to talk about the commute that I had. Hour and a half just one way to get there. So you're talking 10 to 11 hours of mundane routine work. So
Mm.
I believe that your passion level shifts. That's one way to be able to determine when it's time to make a change. The level of your passion shifts for the assignments in your life. And so I don't know if that answered the question, but that's just, you know, some things that I think.
I agree. It got to the point where I was doing my clients' hair because I love them. The
Yeah.
hair always looked great, but I wasn't talking to them. Like
Mhm.
I was on Zooms while I was doing their hair. I was
Yeah.
no longer connected to my
Yes.
client.
That's it.
There was no connection.
That's
It
it.
literally was, they were there, I did their hair, and they were out the door. And then every week I started weaning another one off and weaning another one off and weaning another one off until I decided. And you know what really helped me make the decision though, Naya? I will say this, as I was counting, because um Paul will tell you I was making more than he was on
Uh,
his good job, right?
uh,
Um not behind the chair when I was like full time behind the chair. But
Yeah.
when I decided to go full time MLM, full time network marketing, my one check, for the week was bigger than his full month's check, even with all the overtime he was working.
Wow.
And so, what I had to ask myself before I was ready to just walk away from the chair in totality
Mhm.
is, if this check takes a dive,
Mm.
because I was a retailer as well.
Mhm.
If the check takes a dive, can I earn the same kind of income retailing product? And I knew that I could. So
Yeah.
I felt safe. I guess, yes, safe that I could walk out there, and that I could launch out into the deep, because I knew that, first of all, I have a great work ethic, and
Uh-huh.
anything I put my hands to, I'm going to work it well. And I
Yeah.
knew that if that check took a dive, and it did in
Mhm.
that, um,
Mhm.
could I retail also to sustain, the
Yeah.
income that I was accustomed to in that check that was coming every week from that
Yeah.
particular company I was in. And so it could. And that's when I decided, you know what? Okay. And then I never went back to the chair. What's
Mhm.
so crazy is I know now, if I ever just needed to
Mhm.
go there, I probably never wouldn't, because I feel like I burned the boats.
Uh-huh.
So I've learned that I have so many other skills and ability now that have opened up the door, because now I am open. Just like I had to be open to not just want to be a hairstylist. Then
Yeah.
I the skills of marketing, and now I'm saying, okay, Nina, there's a whole big world out there now. What you're
Yeah.
doing, open up other streams of income. Now I'm learning to be uncomfortable all over again. And so,
Yeah.
y'all give Naya some love. Naya, where can they find you on Facebook and Instagram? Let everybody know so that they
I,
can.
let's see. I'm at Naya and Small on all social media platforms, and you can visit my website at www.nayasmall.com. But Naya Small on all social media platforms.
That was a lesson. I heard y'all heard. I hope y'all heard that. She's Naya Small on all social media platforms. I hope y'all heard that. For those of you that are like hot brown 651 sexy 25 to the 5. No, when people want to go looking for you, if you're in business, when people want to go looking for you, you need to be consistent in your name on all social media platforms. If you're private, you need to get unprivate, because there's no
Mhm.
point on social media if you're going to be private. And so, if this blessed you, you guys, go ahead and drop some hearts, some flames in the Maya and Small. You were amazing. I
Thank you
want to
for
say,
having
not
me.
be our last time. This will not be
Awesome.
our last time. All right. So
Awesome.
thank you so much for joining. And I'm going to shoot you a text message after we're done.
All
Thank you
right.
so.
Thank you for having me.
All right, you guys. So I know you guys enjoyed Naya. Don't worry, Paul's gonna. There he is. Right, Naya. She was amazing. I hope that all of the entrepreneurs that are watching were inspired by her story. And you heard some things. You have to have a strategy. You have to have a plan. Right, write it out. Count the cost. Know your work ethic so that you know what you can and can't, what you are capable of, but be very, very realistic. Write it out. What are your bills? What do you need to happen for you financially before you can walk away? How long do you need to stay at your job so that you can make it happen? Right? Those are all the things that you need to know when you're thinking about becoming a full-time entrepreneur. And so I really want Pastor Cam, thank you so much. I'm a please don't make me invite myself to your wedding. Ooh, did I? Oh, y'all, please don't make me invite myself to y'all wedding, because I will be the wedding crasher that day. I was like, Sean, I just want to be a flower on the wall that day, right? And so please don't make me crash y'all wedding, because me and Paul, we was like, we coming. We just gonna crash their wedding. All right, so stay tuned, you all, for our Millionaire Crusade that will be coming up, where we will be continuing to teach you entrepreneurial skills and things like that. That is not a part of my network marketing company. That is part of Nina R. Moore, right? You guys know that beyond network marketing, I have coaching and training and things that we do, empowerment outside of network marketing. But I'm here to encourage all of the entrepreneurs today, because I don't know, maybe you felt like I did today, right? Where it was just kind of like, there's no uncertainty when you're kind of just like saying, God, okay, like I need you now more than ever before, just because I need your guidance, right? I need your wisdom. I need you to light the path. I need you to order my steps in your word. And maybe that is you today. If you know beyond the shadow of a doubt that you know that you are an entrepreneur, right? I am psychologically unemployable. I don't do bosses well, right? Oh, right. And so, my NinaRmoorer.com, NinaRmoorer.com is the website, you guys. But it's coming, right? We're developing the website, we're developing our mentorship classes, we're developing the Millionaire Crusade. So NinaRmoorer.com, I believe it's going to come up at the end of this podcast. So it's been real, you guys. We've been here with you for a whole hour, even though we say we're going to be like 30 minutes. This was so good that I could not let Naya go. And so no matter what's going on in your life, ladies and gentlemen, I want you to always remember that you can live again, you can laugh again, you can hope again, you can dream again, and you most certainly can bling again. Have a bling-tastic evening, you guys, and we'll see you next week. Bye now.